So hello everyone, in this video I am going to discuss my logistic regression project using Iris dataset. You will find this project link in the description box below. So let's get started. First of all, we are importing some libraries which we will be using for this project, such as pandas as PD for reading our dataset and doing some basic exploration. Then we are importing train test split from sklearn.model selection. We use this train test split to split our data frame into feature variable and a target variable. Then we are importing a standard scaler from sklearn.preprocessing. A standard scaler is used to standardize our column with mean equals to 0 and standard deviation is equals to 1. And then we are importing one hot encoder and label encoder. This two is used for converting any categorical column into numerical column. Then we are importing two libraries such as Seaborn and matplotlib.pyplot as SNS and as PLT respectively. We will use these two libraries for visualizing our data frame. Then we are importing logistic regression from sklearn.linear_model for building our logistic regression model. And then we are importing grid search CV for hyperparameter tuning of our model. Then we are importing import warnings and warnings.filter warnings. We are passing ignore as our parameter. We are importing this warning just because grid search CV generates several warnings, so we want to ignore them. That's why. First of all, we are creating a class named ingest data, and here we have a method known as load_data. It takes data frame as an argument and it takes file path as an argument and returns a data frame. We will initialize def__init_self file path, and self.file path is equal to file path. We will pass this file path argument to this class ingest_data, and we will assign our data frame into a variable called data, such as data is equal to pd.read_csv self.file path. So what will it will do? Pandas will read a CSV file from this file path and will store the that data frame into a variable called data, and it will return that data. We have made one variable named file path where we are having a path for our Iris dataset. Then we are making an object or instance of this class ingest_data by passing file path as an argument. Then we are assigning df is equals to data_loader.load_data to call this function load_data, and storing our data frame in a variable called df. And we can see the first 5 rows using df.head method. Now we are creating a class for data preprocessing, and it will have several methods such as missing values, find_duplicates, delete_duplicates, get x_y, and split_train_test. So let's understand what is the use of this method. Def missing_values. It will find the missing values in the data frame and it will return rows with missing values. We'll assign missing_values is equals to df.isNull.any x is equals to 1, and missing rows is equals to df of missing values. So जहाँ पे missing so wherever we have missing values, it will be returned by this. It will return by this method missing_values. We will get a rows with missing values. Then we have find_duplicates. So use of this function is to finding duplicates rows in a data frame, and it will return a duplicate rows. So we will store our duplicate rows in a variable known as duplicate_rows, such as duplicate_rows is equals to df.duplicated. df.duplicated returns us the duplicates rows, and we are passing this as a data frame, so we will get a data frame. So we will get this as a data frame. We are returning this duplicate_rows. Then after finding duplicates rows, we want to delete them. So we will use this method delete_duplicate_rows. Use of this function is that it will delete duplicate rows and return a data frame after deleting those duplicate rows. And we will store this in data frame and it will return that data frame. Now we will separate our feature variable and a target variable using this function get underscore x underscore y. What is the use of this function? It will separate our target slash dependent variable and feature slash independent variable, and it will return feature variable, that is x, and target variable, that is y. We will do by passing later on we will see that our target variable is class, so we are dropping that column by using df dot drop columns is equals to class x is equals to 1, and we know our target variable is class, so we will store this column into a variable known as y. Y is equals to df of class, and we will return these two variables, return x comma y. After that we will split our data set into training data and testing data. So for that we have defined one method known as split underscore train underscore test. It will split features and target variable in a training and testing data, and it will return x train, x test, y train, y test. As we know, our feature variable is df dot drop column equals to class comma x is equals to 1, and our target variable is your df of class. So we will use train test split library to do this. So it will return x underscore train, x underscore test, y underscore train, y underscore test, and it takes arguments such as x feature variable, y target variable, and test size. We want to, let's say we have 100 data points, right, and we want that 20% of those data points should be in test data. So we will pass as 0.2, and remaining 80% will be our train data, and we are passing random underscore state as 42. Now we are making an object or instance of this class data preprocessing, and we will name this as data underscore preprocess. Now we have made an object called data underscore preprocess for our class data underscore preprocessing. Now let's find out how many missing values are there. So we will print number of missing values are len of data underscore preprocess dot missing values. We will call this method missing underscore values from our class data preprocessing. So as we can see, number of missing values are 0. Now let's find duplicate rows. Similarly we will do print number of duplicate rows are len of data underscore preprocesses. This object we have made now for class data underscore preprocessing, we have made an object known as data underscore preprocess, and using this object we will call our method find as underscore duplicates from our class data preprocessing. So as we can see, number of duplicates rows are 3, that is 34. The rows present at 34 index, 37 index, and 142 index are duplicate rows. Now we have find out the duplicate rows, and we know there are 3 duplicate rows. So the next step is to delete these duplicate rows. So we will use our method delete underscore duplicate underscore rows. Earlier we had 150 data points, and now we have 147 rows, as we have deleted those 3 duplicated rows. Now we will store this process data into a variable df. So our df is equals to data underscore preprocess dot delete duplicate rows. So our df variable will have a data frame after deleting duplicate rows. Now we can see df dot shape is 147, 5. That means it has 147 rows and 5 columns. So let's just call df dot head. Then let's understand what we want to do with this iris dataset. Our main aim is to build a machine learning model which aims to predict flower class based on their unique characteristics. So let's understand about our dataset in detail. We want to find out the columns. I mean what is our columns name. So we will use iris dataset as 5 columns named df dot columns. Df dot columns method, what it does, it prints the name of the column present in our dataset. So as you can see, it has 5 columns: sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and class. And this class is our target variable, right? Now we can print our feature variable and target variable. our feature variable is x dot columns. As you know, we have splitted our data frame into a feature variable and a target variable using that train test split library, right? So as you can see, our feature variable is sepal length, sepal width, petal width, and data type is object, and our target variable is class using y dot name. Y is a series and we want to find out the name of this series, that is it is class. Now let's see how we are just calling this data frame to do more basic exploration further. To get a normal to get a basic overview of our data frame, we just use these two methods, df.info and df.describe. What df.info does is gives us the number of null values present, data type of each column, and df.describe returns a count, mean, standard deviation, 25th percentile, that is 50 percentile, that is median, and 75th percentile, that is Q3, and maximum value present in this column. So as you can see, sepal length has a mean of 5.856463, and there are total of 147 rows. As we can see, there are total of 147 rows for each column. A standard deviation for our sepal length is 0.829100. Minimum value present in our sepal length column is 4.3, and 25th percentile, that is 25% of our data is less than 5.1. Similarly, 50% of our data is less than 5.8 and greater than equals to 5.8. Similarly, 75% of our data is less than 6.4, and 25% and remaining 25% of our data is greater than equals to 6.4, and the maximum value present in this column is 7.9. So you can see for this all the 4 columns by yourself. Now let's analyze these variables. We want to see the number of unique values present in this target variable class. So we will use number of unique flower classes, df of class dot n unique. So as you can see, number of unique flower class is 3. Now we know that there are 3 different flower class. So we want to find their name. We will use df of class dot unique. It will print all the unique values in our target variable class. So as you can see, unique value in target column are Iris setosa, Iris versicolor, Iris virginica. These are the 3 different flower species in our target variable class. Now we want to find out the count of how many of them are Iris versicolor, how many of them are Iris virginica, and how many of them are Iris setosa. So we will use df of class dot value counts. So as you can see, Iris versicolor has 50 data points, Iris virginica has 49 data points, and Iris setosa has 48 data points. Approximately they all are equal. So we can say that it is a balanced data set, as each class has a similar count in a data frame. Therefore we don't need to apply any resampling techniques such as upsampling, downsampling, or smooth. Now we are going to find the outliers and we will remove them. So for that we have made 2 functions, def find outliers using def find outliers IQR, that is it will find outliers using interquartile range method, and after that we will remove them using remove underscore outliers. It takes 2 parameters, that is df comma column. Df is data frame and column is the name of the column. What it does, it will find out outliers using interquartile range and it will return a data frame containing outliers. So for finding outliers using interquartile range, first of all we need to find Q1, that is 25th percentile, and Q3, that is 75th percentile, and IQR is nothing but Q3 minus Q1. So if we want to know if any data point is a outlier or not, so we use a concept of lower bound and upper bound. If any data point is below lower bound or above upper bound, then we consider that data point as an outlier, and lower bound is equals to Q1 minus 1.5 times IQR, and upper bound is equals to Q3 plus 1.5 times IQR. And as I said earlier, any data point lying below lower bound and above upper bound is considered as an outlier. So we are finding outlier. So we want those data point which is small, which lies below lower bound, or that is smaller than lower bound, or which lies above lower bound, that is it is greater than upper bound. So we will use df of column less than lower bound or df of column greater than upper bound, and we will use data frame, that is it will return a data frame, and we will return and store it in a variable known as outliers, and we will return this outlier variable. Now we have find out the outliers. It's time to remove them. So we have done the same as above, like finding IQR interquartile range and lower and upper bound, and now we have found out the lower and upper bound. We want to remove them. So as I said earlier, data points which is below lower bound and above upper bound is considered as an outlier. So what is not an outlier? Any data point which lies between these lower bound and upper bound. So for removing them, we will simply consider the data point which lies between these two, that is lower bound and upper bound. So we are storing this in the data underscore clean, and we will have a data point which is greater than equals to lower bound and less than equals to upper bound. If data point satisfies these two both conditions, then only we will store this in our data frame and return this data underscore clean. Now as we know, we have 4 column in our feature variable, that is independent variable. So we will find out the outliers in 4 of them. First of all, let's see if there are any outliers present in our column name sepal length. So what we will do, we will call this function find underscore outliers underscore IQR. We will pass our data frame and our column name, and we will see the length of this. Length of this data frame. It is coming 0. So we can say that no outlier is present. Similarly, we will do for sepal width, and our output will be 4. So we can say that sepal width column has 4 outliers. Now we have found out the outliers. It's time to remove them. But before removing, let's analyze those outliers using a box plot. So for visualizing it through a box plot, we will import our Seaborn library as SNS. Then we will write these 2-3 lines of code. plt.figure fixed size equals to 10,5. That is height must be 10 and width will be 5. plt.subplot 1 to 1 sns.boxplot, and what we want to, which column we want to plot on our box plot, that is sepal width, and we will set title as identifying outliers using box plot. So as you can see, we got 4 points, and just remember, this is our lower bound and this is our upper bound. This is Q1, this is Q2, this is Q3, that is 25th percentile, 50th percentile and 75th percentile. As you can see, 3 of the data points are above upper bound and 1 data point is below lower bound. So these 4 are outlier. Now we will remove them. So for removing, we will use our this function remove underscore outliers. df is equal to remove underscore outliers. So we are passing the data frame and our column name sepal width. So we will remove outliers and store the data frame in our df variable. And now you can see our df.shape is 143,5. So as you know, earlier we were having 150 rows, right? And we have found out that 3 of the rows are duplicated. So we have deleted them. So we were having 147 rows. Now again we found out that we are having 4 outliers. So again we have deleted them, and then 147 minus 4 is 143. So we are getting 143 rows and 5 columns. Just remember, those 4 dots are the outliers, 3 above upper bound and 1 below lower bound. Box plot is the best way to visualize the outliers, and you can remove them afterwards. Now we have removed the outlier and saved our data frame in a variable df. Now let's again visualize this using box plot. So now you can see we don't have any data points above upper bound or below lower bound. Similarly, we will find out the outliers for petal length and petal width column. For both we are having 0 outliers. Now let's find out which of the columns follow normal or Gaussian distribution. For this we are using from skypy.stats import normal test. We will make one numerical underscore columns which will have all the columns which are of type numerical. Then we will make one variable Gaussian underscore columns and non-Gaussian underscore columns. Then we will iterate through this numerical underscore columns variable for column in numerical underscore columns variable. So first of all, as we know, we have 4 columns: sepal length, sepal width, petal width, and all 4 of them are numerical column, right? So our numerical underscore columns will have 4 variables: sepal length, sepal width, petal width. Now we will iterate through this list. First of all, we will see the sepal length, then sepal width, then petal length, then petal width. We will find out the statistics and p value for this column, and we are setting one significance level, that is alpha, as 0.05. If our p value is greater than this alpha, then we will conclude that this column is a Gaussian, this column follows normal distribution or Gaussian distribution, and we will append that column name into our variable Gaussian underscore columns using Gaussian underscore columns dot append column. Otherwise, we will append that variable name in a non-Gaussian columns variable. So if the p value is greater than significance level alpha, it indicates that the null hypothesis, the data is normally distributed, cannot be rejected. So the column is added to Gaussian columns, otherwise it is added to non-Gaussian columns. Now let's visualize it through the histogram. Like we will plot histogram and then we will visualize those data set whether it follows normal distribution or not. Let's start with sepal length. As you can see, it somewhat follows, like it is little bit similar to normal distribution. We can see from the above histogram that the feature sepal length somewhat follows normal distribution, but it is like not a proper normal distribution, but it somewhat follows normal distribution, right? Then we will visualize sepal width. You can see that this is a perfectly normal distribution curve, like it is a bell shaped curve with mean like symmetric around the mean. है कि नहीं? We can see from the above histogram that the future sepal width follows normal distribution. And after analyzing, like visualizing petal length and petal width, we can see the future petal length is close to normal distribution, but we cannot say it follows normal distribution. Why? Because normal distribution is characterized by its bell shaped curve, which is symmetric around the mean, and it has only single peak at the center. But in this we have got this 2 peak. So therefore, and same in the case of petal width, just see here we got this 2 peak. So we can say that it doesn't follow normal distribution. And we have made this, like we have made this function now for seeing like which of the column follows normal distribution or not. Here our output is also sepal length and sepal width. After printing like Gaussian columns, we got sepal length and sepal width answer. So that means only our 2 column, that is sepal length and sepal width, follows normal distribution. So now we have understood our data set properly, and you can see that our target variable class has categorical feature. So we will encode that categorical feature using label encoder. We will make one variable label underscore encoder is equals to label encoder. And as we know, our target column has 3 species of flower named Iris setosa, Iris versicolor, Iris virginica. We are using label encoder to convert this categorical value into numerical. 0 means Iris setosa, 1 means Iris versicolor, and 2 means Iris virginica. df of class is equals to label encoder dot fit transform df of class. Now you can see our class, that is target variable, is converted into numerical variable, like from categorical to numerical. Now we will separate our feature and target variable x comma y is equals to data underscore preprocess dot x dot get underscore x underscore y, separating our target, separating our feature variable and target column from data frame df and storing it in x comma y. Now you can see x dot head, that is our feature variable, has 4 columns: sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and our y dot head is, that is class, like target variable named class, has only y has only 1 column, that is class. Now you can see the shape of this x dot shape and y dot shape. You can see 143 rows 4 column for our feature variable and 143 rows 1 column for our target variable. Now we will split our data set into a training data and testing data using train test split library, and we have made a one function in our class named data preprocessing, and method name is split underscore train underscore test. Just see the code above, you will get to know. And we will store our we will store our training data and testing data into x underscore train, x underscore test, y underscore train, and y underscore test. Now you can see the shape of this train test using this x underscore train dot shape. Similarly for all the train test. Now you can see x underscore train shape is 114, that is 114 rows and 4 column, and test is 29 rows 4 column. Similarly for y train and y test. Now let's jump on to hyperparameter tuning and model building. So what is hyperparameter? Hyperparameter are the parameter which is set before the training process. And hyperparameter tuning means finding the best set of parameters for training our model. So let's make an object for this logistic regression using and show in a logistic underscore model. As we know, logistic regression has many parameters such as penalty, solver, and C value, and we are using all these in parameters variable. Now we want to do the hyperparameter tuning. For that we are using grid search CV. We will pass our model like which model we are using, logistic underscore model, and parameter underscore grid, which takes parameter as an argument, and cross fold, which is 5. Now we will do model dot fit x train y train. So it will find the best parameter for our model logistic regression, and we will see the best parameter by using model dot best. Just a sec. I will remove this. Okay, so we will find the best parameter using model dot best underscore params underscore. So we got C value as 20, penalty as L2 regularization, and solver as liblinear. So we will train our logistic regression model using this parameter only. So logistic underscore model is equal to logistic regression. C value is 20, penalty is L2 regularization, and solver is liblinear. We'll use this object logistic underscore model to train our data, to train our model using dot fit x train comma y train. So now we have trained our logistic regression model. It's time to predict. So we will store the output in y underscore pred equals to logistic underscore model dot predict x test. Now we have made the model, we have predicted the output. So it's time to see the accuracy of our model. And for that we will import classification report, confusion matrix, and accuracy score from sklearn.metrics. And we will print this confusion matrix, accuracy score, and classification underscore report, and we will pass y underscore pred and y underscore test as argument in all these three. So we will get confusion matrix like this: 800, 090, 020, and accuracy score as 0.9310, and our classification report. Let's understand what does this confusion matrix means. You got the confusion matrix, right? But what does it means? We have 3 different class in our target variable. That's why we got 3 cross 3 confusion matrix. If we were having 2 class, then we will get 2 cross 2 confusion matrix, right? And we were having 29 rows in our test data, as we have seen in x underscore test dot shape and y underscore test dot shape. And if we will sum up all the values in the confusion matrix, we will get 29 as our answer. Now let's understand what this confusion matrix actually means. Let's say we have a column name as actual setosa, actual versicolor, actual virginica, and rows as predicted setosa, predicted versicolor, and predicted virginica. And our confusion matrix is 800, 090, and 0210. So what does this 8 means? This means 8 samples of actual setosa were correctly classified as setosa. And what does this 9 means? 9 means 9 samples of versicolor were correctly classified as versicolor. What does this 2 means? 2 means, see, we have actual versicolor and a predicted virginica, right? So 2 samples of versicolor were predicted as virginica. This 2 means that is 2 samples of versicolor was predicted as virginica, and this 10 means 10 samples of virginica was predicted as virginica. This is what is meant by confusion matrix. Now accuracy score. We got our accuracy score as 0.9310. That means the model is correctly classified approximately 93.1% of the samples in the dataset. Now let's understand our classification report. Here we got precision, recall, F1 score and support. Now let's understand what does this mean. Precision means it indicates how many of the predictive positive are actually positive, and then recall indicates how many of the actual positive instances are correctly predicted, and F1 score is a harmonic mean of precision and recall. As you will study further, you can say that we cannot maximize both these two, precision and recall, and this is known as precision recall trade-off. If you want to maximize precision, then recall will decrease, and if you want to maximize recall, then precision will decrease. And whenever these two both are important, that is precision and recall, at that time we use F1 score, and F1 score is a harmonic mean of precision and recall. Now what does this support means in our classification report? Support is a number of actual occurrences of each class in a test set. For example, class 0, we have support is equals to 8. This means we have 8 data points for our class 0 in our test data.